Be ready for dictation. Start. Sir, one of the arguments that was put forth was that the distribution system of power through the superthermal power stations was illogical. That is what one of the honorable members had put forth. In fact, it should not be said that I am not courteous to the lady member who had spoken. In fact, I must compliment her for the brilliant maiden speech that has been made this morning, but I am not merely on the point of the skill of the debate, but what happens. You kindly consider now, supposing power is to be supplied from the central project according to the deficit of the states, then I am sure the states will become mere parasites. I would not like to go into these details because it would be unfair. You do not expect me to answer every question that you will raise in a debate of this nature. Sir, it is not as though the central sector which exists in Bihar only consumes power. Quite a good bit of power is supplied by the central sector, so it is both ways. I am sure there is a quota for it. The position that I would rather prefer to put forth is that there is a formula that has been evolved. The whole country has been divided into various regions for this purpose. In fact, Raj Adhyaksh committee wanted that we should set up regional electricity boards. There was opposition from the states because the states think that their power would be eroded. Therefore, we are acting a little slow in the matter. Now, what had been happening, I must also explain my difficulty in one sector. Now, the formula that has been evolved is that the central power project, if it is located in a particular state, we provide straightway 10% electricity generated to that state, and then 75% is evacuated not only to the state in which this project is located but to all the states in the region. 15% of the electricity is kept with the center to release to the state in the region whichever is in sufferance. This is the formula that has been evolved. If this formula has got to be changed for those states which are deficit states, then the states would not take up the projects which they ought to, and perhaps it would not be exaggeration for me to assert that the states would become parasites over the central projects. It is precisely because of this reason that we have evolved this formula. In fact, I am facing one more difficulty which I must share with the House. I am having quite a lot of difficulty in the transmission of power that has to be evacuated from the central power projects. The Rajadhyaksh committee has gone on record to say that the 220 kV lines, which are crucial for the purpose of evacuation of power, should be taken over by the center. The management of those transmission lines, and in fact we are going ahead with setting up the 400 kV transmission lines at various places. Now, what had been happening is that the states which are subjected to a power storage had certainly been trying to say yet you must control the transmission lines, but I am finding that quite a large number of states are not prepared to agree to allow the center to have the control of the 220 kV transmission lines. In fact, some time back, I had taken a meeting of all the power ministers in the northern zone, and none agreed for the central control. I had to set up a committee of the chairman of electricity boards to go into it and find a way out for the purpose of evacuation of power from the thermal power stations controlled by the center. I have taken this step so that the power could be evacuated without difficulty. Otherwise, if the transmission lines have also to be developed, the cost will be equal to the setting up of the thermal power station. Now, according to a rough calculation, the creation of 1 MW capacity costs about rupees 1 crore. That means that for setting up the super thermal power stations which have been set up at different places with a capacity of 2100 megawatt, we would have had to spend rupees 2100 crores, and an equal amount would have to be spent for the purpose of the transmission lines, which would make things very difficult because of the resource constraints. I thought I should explain this so that the position becomes a little clear. Sir, one of the members had asked about the future of the Haldai Petrochemicals Complex. In fact, I have said this in the other house also, that so far as the Haldai Petrochemical Complex is concerned, it is unfortunate that the delay had been taking place. Stop